Hello, this is Notaspringchick, and today we're going to talk about composting. Yes, composting. Why in the world would you want to do that? Well, in the search to be greener or to not waste as much, all of us are trying to do something, but in the words of Monty Bubbleism, being green is like never, never land. It's something that we all strive to do, but we can never quite get there. So composting, I thought that would be easy. I mean, don't you? I mean, you think, okay, well, because I was making a bunch of smoothies and I wanted all the strawberry tops who want to help with, food waste for the garden. And of course, Monty wanted to make her contribution, being chair dog and all, for the environment. But once I started looking into composting, I now understand why more people are not doing it. But I do have some solutions for some easy composting, which you may have to wait just a little bit on. So first of all, the basics of composting, which is research, which is a basic for a lot of things, because it's not quite as easy as you think it is. I know old Kev's sitting there looking at me.
Well, it is easy if you got a nice chunk of property. Then you just take it and put it in a great big pile, and all you have to do is just turn the pile. But
that sounds a whole lot easier.
Yeah, but people don't have the property, because the problem is that can also draw flies and draw smell. They can draw flies, stink, and it can also catch fire. Have you ever seen a dump?
Oh, I had never thought about that. So composting is actually, well, although you can do it if you're in the city and have small areas, it's a lot easier if you have big pieces of ground. Actually, what did they say, like a 3x3
Okay,
space?
you can cut a hole and then pit composting, a 3 foot by 3 foot, 2 foot deep pit in the ground, and you dump all of your stuff in the ground. But then that also has the secondary problem of what happens when you fill that up.
Because, okay, with the composting, it's comprised of a couple different things. One is, plant, like what do they call it? Green matter, brown matter, and worms.
Yeah, and worms.
Which is food waste, plant waste, and worms.
And worms. And you don't have worms if you use a plastic container to put your stuff in. You have to add worms to it then, which costs you more money.
And then you have to go buy special composting worms.
That's right.
These are not just standard worms. So, but it can catch fire? Oh,
okay,
right.
It gets like 140, 160 degrees in there. Okay, what people do is they'll use it's a good thing to do with your green grass, because your grass clippings help provide nitrogen content for the compost. But the problem is that a lot of people don't stir the compost when they put it there, and an outside, something that's uncovered sitting on the ground, if it is not taken care of, it can smolder and start burning. So
there is manure that you can use, for example, like manure with like chicken.
Yeah, you go to
chicken waste.
You can get, you want basically, go to like Home Depot, Lowe's, one of those places, and get the manure. When you got to, basically.
Or if you live on a farm.
Yeah,
but you can't. But it's not intended for cats and dogs.
Waste.
Because
they have microbes in them that are not good for that. They have germs that are bad for the microbes.
Oh.
Yeah, but what you can.
And then they draw flies too.
Yeah, they draw flies. What you can do with the that waste though is to put it in a spot. Put it in. You can dig a little hole in your yard, put it in, and it will break down on its own. Just put it in. If we want it to dry, if it gets wet, it's going to really be bad. With dry, it will dry out.
That's the key. It's all about space.
Yeah.
So when you're doing this, you can also do the indoor one, but
you have to have, if you get a 50-gallon drum, you can do it in. You can do it, the slats that they put, packing stuff on, in stores and stuff. You can put, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these together, one on the bottom and one on each side, fasten them together, and that can be used. You can use,
It needs to be air.
You have to have air. You have to have a lot of direct sunlight.
Direct sunlight. Now that's the key, because see, part of it is for a more step-by-step thing. There's lots of things on the internet about composting. EPA has a website on how to compost, what you can compost. The City of LA has one. In fact, the City of LA has classes on composting, and they do offer discounts on the different containers for composting. In fact, there's one that's as little as $20, but then there's some that are a lot more expensive.
Yeah, with the little jobs, though, the problem with the little jobs is they don't handle. You realize how much waste, that can be composted a person turns out a month?
Well, see, that's the challenge, because when you compost, there's one which is, one's like a hot compost, and then there's a cold compost.
Yeah,
but
they would be the sealed
accelerated
ones.
one. The what?
The sealed ones would be cold, I think.
Okay, but anyway, the long one is 4 to 6 months. The short one is 4 to 6 weeks. So whether it's 4 to 6 months or weeks, you have whatever you have comprised to do that compost sitting there waiting, composting, right? Meanwhile, you have other waste that you're gathering for the next compost pile. So when does that time clock start?
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
so then you need another pile.
It's bookkeeping.
And then another pile.
That's right. You can
Man.
Okay. We lived on we used to have a lot of ground. I had a garden that was like a 200 foot by about 120 foot, which is basically bigger than most people's houses. But we generated an awful lot of waste from the house, from the food we were eating. And I would dig one pit after another pit after another pit after another pit.
Did you remember to turn them?
But we had a big garden. They had a rototiller, so I'd sit there and go through. I'd sit there and put the rototiller down into the pit, chew it all up, and then, of course, after I did that, then I had to take the rototiller out, clean all the junk off the rototiller, rake everything back into the pit again.
Well,
It's really not cost effective. It's cheaper to go out and
buy this stuff. Well, I mean, I suppose if you've got all the space and you've got all the time and you've got a farmland and all that stuff, maybe it works.
But there is the easy method.
What's that?
There's two easy methods to doing composting. One is to go get yourself a really cheap food processor, chop everything up into a liquid form.
Oh, now you're telling them my secrets.
Yeah, well, because that's actually, you chop it up into a liquid form, make certain it is really liquid, because you get like what you almost have is compost tea.
See, now what he's just talked about that's my version of composting, only because I am not going to go out there every day or every week and do piles and piles and piles. But I did want to contribute and use some of my food waste.
Yeah,
so I just made the compost tea.
In compost tea, what you do is you add, and this is going to be a hard one to take for the beer drinkers. If you add a little beer to that compost tea and swirl it all in, the beer has got lots of sugars in it. And you can put that around. And then the next method is to grind up your stuff in a thicker form, put it around your plants, and let it break down that way.
It's like a mulch, huh?
It's like a mulch. You said it is not as effective on putting nitrogen in the soil, but it gets rid of the stuff, and it provides a ground cover around your plants.
So there are some solutions to composting where you can actually feel like you're contributing more. It's not taking a lot of time.
But it will cost you money.
But that one's not so bad. I just do it in the regular food blender.
Yeah, but you don't want to, basically, but you don't want to screw your own. You can go buy a $19 thing over at Walmart to do your job for you. Always chop it up before you actually put it in, though.
But that makes it a whole lot easier than.
But composting has all. Actually, tomorrow we're going to tell you we got the.
Which one?
No, the intricacies of composting that you didn't bring with you
Oh,
today.
that's right. We can go into the intricacies tomorrow. But for now, if you want to find out more information, take a look on the EPA's website. Check your local city, because they do have classes on composting as well as discounting. But for now, or check Living with Ed. But for now, this is Notaspringchick on composting. We're here yesterday, today, and tomorrow.